You made allusion to the big, beautiful bill and Medicaid, and that all rolls back up to affordability, right? And I think the Democrats are a little bit in the wilderness right now about what our message is, and a lot of labels that are still floating around, center, left, far left, et cetera. I'm curious on your perspective on that, especially in the context of the 28% approval rating that seems to continuously come up for Democrats. And then also how you think it reflects on, the election of someone like Zohran Mamdani as a candidate in New York.
Yeah, I think his success in the primary and in New York is largely because he was laser focused on affordability, and you couldn't miss it. Even if you only saw him speak once, you knew that affordability was his focus. And it's very important anytime you're doing any politics anywhere that your focus aligns with the focus of the people you're trying to serve. I mean, that's important for policy as well as politics. And that's been a struggle for Democrats, even though I believe part of why I'm a Democrat is I believe that we have people's best interest at heart more when we're fighting to protect people's health care or to make sure the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes or to increase personal freedoms or any of the big issues that we weigh in on. It often feels like we've taken our eye off the ball, and there's all kinds of figures, especially in digital media, who are happy to perpetuate that, right? So I think Democrats need to be, first of all, everything that's going on we can express in terms of affordability. The affordability of your health insurance premiums just got worse if you're on the marketplace because of the bill and what it did to the subsidies on Obamacare. The affordability of things we buy at the store every day is getting worse, partly because of the tariffs that are just literally directly increasing prices. The affordability of a home is getting worse because interest rates will be pushed higher by the enormous deficit that was created in order to fund these tax cuts for the wealthiest people in the country. People so wealthy they might not even notice that they got the tax cut, but a lot of people will notice that it's harder to get a mortgage because of this. So we should be, I think, very, very quick to return to that. And when we talk about other things that are also legitimate, important things that we care about, like losing democracy, we can bring it back to that by pointing out part of why it matters not to have a king is that a king doesn't have to worry about whether you can afford your daily necessities as a result of his policies. All of this tethers back to everyday life. If we don't talk about it in those terms, we're losing.
How do you think about the mentality that some had? And I hear this a lot. There's a lot of talk on 2024 about saving democracy. Democracy is on the ballot. A lot of people said to me, Dan, I don't think this democracy is working for me. I don't believe in it. I see Republicans, Democrats as both corrupt. I'm independent. I have some opinions that are conservative. Some are liberal. I don't like labels. And I see congressional stock trading happening on both sides of the aisle. They say they're going to do something about it, nothing happens. How do we regain that trust to even establish the baseline that this is how we should move forward?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of false equivalence out there, but I do think that there's also an erosion of trust that both parties bear some responsibility for. And the only way to get through that, I think, is results. We have to be able to deliver different and better results. And we have to explain, if we have a high-minded or academic-sounding principle about liberty or democracy, as we should, and we defend it, as we must, again, we do that in a way that comes back to why it matters in everyday life. Part of how democracy prevailed over the Soviet system was not just that we outmaneuvered them on geostrategic and military terms. It was that there were a lot of Soviets who wished they had the everyday life of an American, and not a lot of Americans who wish they had the everyday life of a Soviet citizen. And if you can't make that everyday better, then substantively as well as politically, you're on the wrong track.
When you say false equivalency, what are the one or two that really get to you?
Well, for example, this idea that both sides are equally corrupt. Don't get me wrong. There have been, spectacular specific instances of Democratic politicians who turned out to be corrupt. But, and by the way, I think the stock trading is a huge problem and they shouldn't be doing that. No one from either party should be part of that. But the idea that there's any comparison with a president who's trying to take a secondhand jumbo jet from a foreign country or setting up a crypto system that basically is the same as giving the numbers to a Swiss bank account for anybody who wants to randomly drop him money that he can then personally have. There is nothing remotely comparable to that from either party in the modern history of this country. And we should not pretend that it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of The People's Cabinet. If you did, please like, subscribe, ring that bell, and put in the comments below who else you'd like to see sworn in. And stay tuned for new episodes every Tuesday. Let's go.